Hey guys, I'm Angus and today we're wrapping up all the books that I read in September of 2019. So I read 8 books this month, which I haven't done in like probably 3 years. So I'm pretty chuffed. And today I just want to wrap everything up and tell you guys what I read and what I thought. I don't know if I should call this the gay wrap up because I read like 50 million gay books this month. And I'm also wearing this rainbow tassel-y jacket thing. Maybe we'll go with that. My gay September wrap up. Let's do that. So as I was saying, 8 books, 3,070 pages, which is an average of 102 pages per day. So I'm pretty chuffed. I think I did pretty good this month, and I just want to dive in and talk about these books because I've got thoughts. The first book I read this month was Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I know this book came out so long ago and I only just read it. I finally got around to the Rainbow Rowell train. Like last month I read Fangirl, and after this I have a few more Rainbow Rowell books that I read this month. But I'm so glad I read this book. I went into it being a bit skeptical because after Fangirl, I wasn't the hugest fan of the Simon and Baz story, but this sold it to me, man. Like I love Simon and Baz, but I love Baz the most. Just this enemies to lovers trope just fills me with so much life. I just, so good, so much fun. If you want to know what it's about, go look it up because you know, it's very popular. I'm not gonna waste my time telling you what it's about. Although right now I'm wasting my time talking about nothing. I sped through this so fast. While I was reading this, I found out I was getting an early copy of Wayward Son. So that was even more exciting. Yeah, I gave this book 5 stars. It's so clever what it does. The next book I read was also a Rainbow Rowell book, and it was sent to me by Macmillan Australia. So thank you so much, Macmillan, for sending me this book. And it's Pumpkinheads, which is by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. And it's a graphic novel about these 2 teens who work at this pumpkin patch thingy and they fall in love. You know, it's very predictable, but it was still so sweet. I read this in like one night. So if you're a fan of Rainbow Rowell and her storytelling and her characters, definitely pick up this book, and it's so fast to read. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. I gave this book 5 stars, I think. On the Rainbow Rowell train, I was just giving everything 5 stars. I kind of need to go back and think more about things, but haven't really got there yet. So while I was waiting for my early copy of Wayward Son to come, I had to fill my life with something Rainbow Rowell, so I picked up Eleanor and Park, which has been sitting on my shelf for the longest time. At the start of this book, I was kind of not enjoying it. It was, you know, there's issues with this book and they're only kind of coming to light now. And I do understand all the issues and the racism in this book. I still really enjoyed the storytelling and the love story, and just, she's really good at what she does. I could definitely do without the racism. Because of the issues though, I did give this book 4 stars. It did take me a while to get through this because I don't know, I kept putting it down because it was just such a downer at parts. And then the ending, after Eleanor and Park, I was still waiting for my arc to arrive. So I picked up The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. I've been making my way through Dan Brown's books. This is the 3rd book in the Robert Langdon series. I've read the first 2, and I'm reading this book. All of his books are the same. If you've read them, you'll probably understand what I mean. It's the same formula, just different settings and different hero props. I'm getting sick of it as well. Once you've read one Dan Brown book, you've read them all. So this is obviously an adult book, mystery, race across the world kind of thing. This one in particular is set in Washington, DC, and is about the Masons and their involvement in American history, and some weird stuff happens, some severed limbs. In typical Dan Brown fashion, it's quite sexist. I'm getting sick of these, but I'm probably gonna keep reading them because I just wanna have that kind of done, that I've read all the Dan Brown books. So after that, finally, Wayward Son arrived, and I was so excited. I read this book in 3 days. So this is the 2nd book in the Carry On series, and first time reading it, I really loved it, but it's so short. It's like 350 pages compared to the 500 that Carry On is. It feels a little bit like a filler book for a series to be set up, which is interesting because, I don't know, obviously the first book wasn't written to be a series, but something's happened and now they want to make it into a series. And I don't know, not much happened in this book. We went on a road trip, kind of like a half road trip. It felt unfinished. But all of that aside, I really did love how the characters have developed in this book. I feel like I latched on a lot more to Penelope. I didn't really get that in the first one. I don't know if that's just me, but this one really solidified my connection with Penelope. And of course, Baz and Simon. Still love Baz. So if you read Carry On, I would still pick up this book just to see where it goes and see how you feel. I feel like that's what a lot of people are feeling. It's a really good story, but it feels like a short story. It feels like this should have been a novella. I don't know. The stakes don't feel very high. I don't know if that's just how Rainbow Rowell is writing her fantasy books. So I gave this one 4 stars, I believe. I forgot to mention this book was sent to me by Macmillan, and I made a fun little music video to accompany the release of this book. I have the links in the description if you want to see that. Anyway, let's move on. So next up, to continue my Dan Brown journey, I read Deception Point, which is one of his earlier novels not following Robert Langdon. And this one is about when a meteor is found in the ice of the Arctic Circle that contains fossils of alien life, kind of like what goes down. And it's also got a lot of political undertones with like a political race happening side by side. Yeah, it made it really interesting. I really enjoyed the first 3/4 of this book, but the climax was probably one of the most boring climaxes I've ever read. I just couldn't. It was so boring. I didn't care. That is actually a feature of Dan Brown's novels. I feel like everything kind of wraps up before the last 100 pages and it's just like a long action sequence to, you know, round things out. And I got bored. I felt like I could have finished the book 100 pages earlier and still feel the same way. The writing is really addictive. It's quite simple and a little bit trashy, but really accessible. So if you're looking for like a mystery, race against time across the world kind of high stakes thing, then I would look to Dan Brown's books. You know, if you haven't read them already. I feel like I'm the last person on earth to read them. It's 2019 and I'm reading Dan Brown. What's wrong with me? Next, I read a graphic novel, and this is probably my first bad experience with a graphic novel. I read Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, the graphic novel, which was actually a gift given to me by Maisie from Sleepy White Studios a few years ago. So thank you so much, Maisie, for sending this to me. I love the Percy Jackson series, but for some reason, I just couldn't, the art style in this book and the way it was told, I just didn't like it. And I know a lot of people are having issues with the graphic novels of the Percy Jackson series. They just doesn't seem to work. I don't know why. So I read this, it took me a while because I kept putting it down. Something about it, just doesn't sit with me. I can't pinpoint it for you, but yeah. And finally, I finished this book after midnight on the 1st of October, but I'm gonna count it in my August wrap up because I read like 99% of it in August. And that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And I cried after finishing this book. Happy tears. This book made me feel so much love, and I just can't put it into words. If you don't know, Red, White, and Royal Blue is doing the rounds on BookTube. It has been for like a year now. It's about when the Prince of Wales and the first son of America fall in love, and it's just so cute and so gay, and I love it so much. I just want to read it again and again and again. So this is a new adult novel, so it's a bit more mature than young adult. It's quite steamy in parts, which was fun. Also, it isn't trashy. I loved how it stayed away from that trashy trope of, you know, new adult romance novels, because there's so much more going on. Like, there's so much more at stake, and while this is happening, there's a political race happening, and also, like, you know, just general being a Prince of Wales and being a first son, like what's going on, and like, you know, what happens when they fall in love. And it was so sweet and I loved it so much. It's probably my favorite book I read this month. I'm gonna cry now thinking about it. Alrighty, so those are all the books I read this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'd really love to have a discussion about Red, White, and Royal Blue. If you guys want to see that video, let me know. I just want to talk about it so much. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week in another video. Bye!